So a little bit about me. I've kind of been around to a few different things. I was a baker and pastry chef right after college. I've been a yoga teacher for funsies, and I've been in tech for, I guess, like 7 or 8 years. And the whole point of this slide is that throughout my career, I've known when was the right time to transition and pivot. So that's kind of the theme of this talk, is understanding like the similarities and differences across different roles or different responsibilities, and then figuring out how and when is the right time to transition or add some of these other responsibilities into the role that you have. And the common thing about all these things is that culture is there, and this talk isn't about culture, but culture is such a foundational aspect of DevOps, platform engineering, and tech, and just being a person. So this was taken from a talk that Mandy Walls gave at a few DevOps days called Culture is Still a Challenge. And I can't find the image itself, but the comic is that there are two like junior developers in the fishbowl, and there's a senior fish, and the fish comes in, and it's like, how's the water, guys? And the two junior fish are just like, what is water? And that kind of illustrates how culture is all around us. We are living in it and engulfed in it, and sometimes it's hard to know what culture is while we're in it. And why is this important? It's because both DevOps and platform engineering, they emphasize collaboration, agility, shared responsibilities across teams and products. And a thriving culture has elements of autonomy, empowerment, psychological safety, ability to experiment and take calculated risks and adapt to ever-changing landscape, especially within tech as we innovate. But there's still a lot of challenges to culture. Like, we have all these silos that get formed. A study in 2023 found that 55% of organizations have issues with siloed teams, isolated from one another, like development, operations, security, and that often teams are change resistant. We like our comfort and the things that we know, and the research from Gartner shows that 75% of DevOps initiatives fail to meet expectations due to resistance because of changing traditions. And so this lack of collaboration can snowball into other things like a skills gap, employment dissatisfaction, lack of clear measurements of impact and accountability. And automation adoption is another big one that we see a lot today. I won't really be talking about AI, but I think there's this big push to adapt more automation and AI within our companies. And so there's this one Stack Overflow survey that shows in 2022, 42% of developers believed that their organizations, the processes lacked significant automation due to legacy culture and resistance to change. And that increases the burden of manual tasks, which contribute to burnout. So how do we foster healthy culture? It comes from leadership buy-in, clear communication, open channels, established common goals, promoting regular feedback loops, education, training, and rewarding collaboration. And one other tiny metaphor that I've held with me throughout since I was in college is Indra's net of jewels. It's a metaphor of interconnectedness in Buddhism. And in the metaphor, each living thing, every living thing is a jewel within this vast net, interconnected. And within each jewel, you're reflected every other living thing, but the ones closest to you are the strongest reflection. So this kind of metaphor drives home the point that like we all influence one another, whether or not we take accountability to that fact. So to look further ahead, this is where we're going. I like to know where talks are going. So we're just gonna kind of go through some history definitions, a little bit of a perspective, and current use cases within companies and the job markets. We'll look at a little baking analogy and a evolution of platform engineering as written from a State of DevOps report. So for a little bit of historical context, we see that, you know, in the 60s and 70s, it was easy to manage just like one server in a room. It was usually like a one-person show. And then as we continue with development, and all these, you know, dates and numbers are loosely written. So, you know, waterfall turns into agile, which turns into a need for more continuous integration, and in 2009, DevOps was coined. In mid-2010s, there is adoption of infrastructure as code, which is a little bit of what my company does. And then in the 2020s, platform engineering has always been around as a concept, but it's really started to take off in the I guess within the last 5 years, we see it more as a trend. And these days we see a lot of like the evolution of platform engineering and DevOps, and kind of some people will pit them against one another, kind of like I did in my talk title. So to understand like where we're going, we need to understand how we got here. And so we kind of see this like oscillation between like silos and breaking down silos, and that creating more silos. Like DevOps originally wanted to break down those silos, but in doing so, we see that we have another silo around the DevOps teams. And we also see that with like monoliths becoming microservices and then going back to monoliths. I think that is currently the trend. Monoliths, right? Like that's what we're all doing now? Laughter. Okay, I will say that. So yes, maybe. Okay. So, and also, I don't know if y'all caught the last talk, John Willis, but he is actually one of my heroes, because when I was a software developer doing full stack, we read the DevOps handbook. Who's read that one? Okay, a few. I strongly recommended that one. That was like an eye-opener for me, because it started to put into words the things that we were practicing within that team, and it started to really make sense as a full stack engineer, like what I could be doing more of to help tighten this feedback loop. Okay, so what is DevOps? Here are a few definitions. DevOps is, a philosophy, whereas platform engineering is more of a discipline. So we've all seen that like figure eight continuous loop of test, build, deploy, and then back again. And so, here are some textbook definitions. Their DevOps teams are responsible for planning, coding, building, testing, release, deployment, operations, monitoring. So it can kind of become a lot. And one of my directors at Chef likes to say that DevOps is a mistake. It's decentralization, is anarchy, and it's not great when under constant attack from a security perspective. And as we all may know, security is becoming more and more of a concern as the bad actors have access to all these toolings. So big companies are really trying to figure out how to get ahead of the bad actors who have, who just, I don't know, it seems like they're multiplying faster than we can keep up with security. So what is platform engineering? Turns out it's a magical portal to a big castle with a bunch of witches and wizards. No one likes Harry Potter. Okay, just kidding. Now I get a laugh. Thank you for the pity laugh. That's perfect. So what is platform engineering? So platform engineering is mainly a discipline of designing, building, managing a shared platform. It is the foundation that teams can build their products on. It provides developers with tools and resources to do all of these DevOps things. It focuses on self-service capabilities and automating infrastructure management. This is like someone else helping the team support from a centralized location. Platform engineers generally provide services to more people with less resources, and they're responsible for building these self-services for deployment, operations, monitoring, and it can provide consistency and guardrails to the work that we're doing as developers. So I know that in the internet world, we see a lot of like this versus that, like did platform engineering kill DevOps? I even talked about that a little bit in my description. And maybe this is how we like to think about DevOps and platform engineering. But in reality, it's more of a handshake. They work together really, really well. DevOps is always borrowed from other disciplines. It's a philosophy of collaboration and cross-functional use. So platform engineering is just kind of another trend that we're bringing in and incorporating to see how we swing the pendulum from DevOps to platform engineering and maybe back to waterfall, who knows? Hopefully not. I don't know. I've never been in one of those organizations, so. I picked this symbol because it shows the duality, and I think there is a duality to platform engineering and DevOps together. And another little definition, I had to edit this one because it did not have some nice words there. So this is from Reddit, a very simplified way of looking at DevOps and platform engineering. The DevOps, the devs run their own stuff, and then the platform engineers, a person creates stuff to let the devs run their own stuff. So, in either case, it's just like a server person. And so that's a very simplified look at it. But if we kind of look at some of the job descriptions that are out there, we see that it's specific to tooling, and then maybe a little more with extended with the platform. And then across the board, platform engineers earn more on average than their DevOps engineers peers. The gap is almost 10% in America and double that in Europe. And why is that the case? It's because companies are realizing that building a platform adds more value to their bottom line, and employees with the right experience and product mindset are hard to find and harder than the typical DevOps engineer to find. So being a DevOps engineer with a product mindset is kind of how we see platform engineering. And here are some examples of different companies and how they implement both DevOps practices and platform engineering practices. So many of these companies, maybe you've heard of one or two, they all have complex, large-scale, cloud-native environments, and they've all adopted these DevOps and platform engineering teams to improve software delivery and operational efficiency. So within these examples, you can see some common terms in place, CI/CD, internal platforms, having teams dedicated for managing infrastructure, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I think it's interesting to think of like each business model, especially like Capital One, their credit cards. So they really need the compliance and regulatory aspects of their self-service. And so with a platform engineering, they're able to have that be in the centralized place. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go into a little analogy of baking. Anyone here like bread? Okay, cool. Who here is like just fundamentally against the idea of raising their hand? Yes, I love that when people fess up to that one. Me too, though. Me too, right? Okay, so let's use this analogy to explain how DevOps and platform engineering can kind of evolve from like a one-person hobby baker to like a small bakery to a production scale bakery that makes maybe one or two things. So for the hobby baker, it's like a one-person team, and you're responsible for everything from finding the recipes, sourcing ingredients, mixing, baking, cleaning up. You automate what you can, like setting timers and using a mixer instead of hand kneading to streamline the process, but there's no like formal feedback loop, except maybe your mom telling you that it tastes nice. So you might tweak recipes based on the taste and appearance, and the DevOps practices are kind of intuitive at this scale and focused on the individual productivity and the quick iterations. And then with platform engineering as like a hobbyist, you're a one-person operation, so there's not really platform engineering happening. The platform is just kind of like your kitchen setup and your tools, which are minimal and basic, but enough for what you're doing. And then as you scale, maybe you learn you have some skills here and you want to open a bakery with a few different products or maybe just one product. And so when you're expanding to the small bakery, focusing on like sourdough, more people join and you have a customer to please. So you need consistent workflows. You establish a basic DevOps setup where teams communicate effectively to manage mixing, proofing, baking, quality control, and there are clear roles with some tasks that are automated, and feedback loops, like customer reviews inform the product, and that's kind of like with DevOps where the user feedback leads to this continuous improvement cycle. And then with platform engineering, at this stage, you begin to build a small scalable platform to support the team's work. you invest in like specialized equipment, and that will like reduce the manual work and labor, and the platform engineering setup allows for standardizing the process so that the baker can focus on the bread rather than troubleshooting the mixer or but at the same time it's still small scale, so it's kind of limited with customization. And so as you grow, let's say that you are tired of dealing with customers and you just want to deal with other companies. So for a production bakery, let's pretend like you only want to sell bread to all the bakeries and cafes in town. So you have this big bakery, large-scale production facility, and you're producing lots of different types of bread daily with teams, doing kneading, baking, all specialized. And DevOps practices are critical in this case because you need to streamline the workflows across departments, each one specializing in tasks. Everything has to align with timing and working together efficiently. The automated feedback loops monitor production quality and alert teams to any issues, and adjustments are continuously made to improve the product. And with platform engineering at this stage, it's key to scaling and consistency. You have a book of all the recipes and processes. The platform is built, it provides all the teams with standard tools, machines, dashboards to look at this data. So in summary, like DevOps is it can be a set of like personal productivity techniques in terms of philosophy, like with the one person setup and no platforming is necessary. But then as you grow to like have a single product, DevOps can formalize these roles and feedback loops with platform engineering, including specialized tools that can be used across the workflow. And then with a large-scale multi-product organization, DevOps becomes well-coordinated with inter-team workflows, and platform engineering provides a very robust, scalable infrastructure where a high-quality, consistent output across multiple teams and product lines. And so as teams and organizations scale, DevOps becomes more structured and collaborative with platform engineering, building the necessary infrastructure that allows the entire operation to function efficiently and reliably. So to look at it more from a zoomed out perspective, here are some trade-offs. While I'm using the verses here, it's really not mutually exclusive. I think with a lot of these traits, it is more of a spectrum. You can lean more towards one or the other. And in this case, with I think centralized and decentralized, one of the more important ones. Centralized, the platform team supports various business units across the organization, and then decentralized, the platform team is embedded in an individual business unit and only serves that team. So with that in mind, it kind of comes down to like who are you serving, and do you have one product or many products? It really depends on who your customer is. For the true DevOps team, a customer is a business, a product manager, or the end customer. And then for the platform engineering teams, the customer is other development teams. Okay, so with the 2024 State of DevOps report, this was published by Puppet, Humanitech, the CD Foundation, and Women in DevOps. They found that the driver of success was efficiency, speed, and security. Big surprise there. And the goal is to better understand the people, processes, and trends that shape DevOps each year. And we're finding that platform engineering is trending up. So the key findings of this report, and I recommend that everyone go look up this report along with the DORA State of DevOps report as well, and read through them for the latest trends and findings by these huge organizations. So the key findings here is that the rise of developers is supported by platform engineering. These self-service tools and environments give developers flexibility to work quickly. And then the full potential of DevOps is unlocked with standardized automation that streamlines key processes, eliminates repetition, accelerates delivery, and happens simultaneously with expanding platform functions. Consistency and productivity stand to benefit. And then security is built into the platform engineering, and everyone benefits with this centralized way of thinking, and it empowers people to take responsibility for security from the very beginning to ensure compliance. So platform engineering can act as a barrier against the chaos of tools, tasks, and information, because the common challenges include like complexity, buy-in from teams and developers, and limited resources and gaps in communication. So what's next? This is when, we kind of ask ourselves these things. I think maybe we're all happy being developers. I would hope so. Should your company be thinking of engineering in a platform perspective, or include more platform engineering practices within the DevOps teams? Should you be talking a little more about platform engineering? Probably, maybe, if your team has more than one product, or your organization has different products where a lot of commonality with tooling or processes in place, like having that be pulled out and done in a central location can really speed up efficiency. And what solutions it kind of comes down to like what solutions to common problems can be documented in a central location. So there's kind of a ground up approach where it starts with the individual, or a top down approach where it starts with leadership and can live within operations. Okay, and that's kind of all I have. I kind of sped through that a little fast. Here are a few ways to connect. And if you play Pokemon Go, find me afterwards so we can be friends.